everyone. It's Michael Fernandez, the CEO of Functional Solutions, the author of Smart Suite library software and digital content for libraries, TV for education. Today, I'd like to introduce all library staff members and anyone that works in a library to an article I came across, which I think just ticked every box when it comes to library and librarian relevancy for the future. And I would strongly recommend that you actually visit this particular site and investigate it for yourself. It has a lot of articles in here, but as at the 9th of September 2020, the trending article, which is when you log in, it's the very first article that'll come up. It says 10 skills librarians need for the future, identifying and exploring future trends impacting on academic libraries. So as a software vendor that specializes in academic libraries, it's very important for you to take note. We're not selling Smart Suite, and we're not promoting any other library product, except when you actually read this article, it will shake you up, we hope, to how you're running your library. The first one, there's 10 points in here. It talks about change management. Higher education is a constantly changing sector. Policy, technology, pedagogy, and student behavior all impact on the institution. The academic library is subject to these changes, and there is a need to keep reviewing and renegotiating the position of the library within the institution. Being able to manage change effectively is one of the top skills for library leaders. I would venture to say it's one of the top skills for the libraries of the future. And so you have, as a library worker, you have, and I'm not calling you a librarian, I'm not calling you a teacher librarian, I'm calling you as a library worker, anyone working in the library. It's so important that you understand and realize and appreciate the immense opportunity you have to impact whether your library and your institution is going to be relevant and for the future. And how do you go about doing it? Most libraries continue to use the same software they've used year after year after year, and essentially there is a loyalty factor, and that loyalty factor is making them obsolete. And bear in mind, I'm not saying please use our system because we address all these factors. We're not saying that at all. But we are saying because of the change that's happening in the digital world we're living in, you need to look, first of all, not at your library software, but what is happening. Forget about the books, forget about the digital space. Have a look at what's happening in your institution. Have a look at what the demands of your patrons, and in particularly the teachers, and why they come to the library, or worse, why they don't come to the library. So it's very important to understand change management and make sure that you're not using a particular library product because that's what you've always used. Nothing could be a death sentence for your library than for using that as the reason. Or worse than that, something peddled by some library vendors is everybody else is using it, so why don't you? Or worse than that, they'll say, but we're part of a big multinational organization. So what? What has that got to do with change management? So that's very important. The next thing Laura talks about is proving value. In an increasingly evidence and data-driven sector, it is more important than ever that libraries prove their value to the organization. And you do not prove your value to the organization by having a big collection and being able to check in and check out books at the speed of light. That's old hat. you prove your value and the return on investment not just on the printed material, but the content and the information that is disseminated through the library system. And if you know anything, and if you're familiar with the digital world, it is changing even as we speak. What was correct yesterday is no longer correct necessarily. Or what you were looking for yesterday, now you have an actual mountain of digital content to back it up or to disprove it. So have a look at your collection and have a look at the evidence that's being asked for by your patrons, by the data they're looking for to get out of the library system. If you don't do that, you become irrelevant. So something like Smart Library as an example, it's not just about books, and it's not also just about the digital content. It's about current, engaging digital content and being able to go to the research arm, like in TV for Education, and say, this is a topic. What have you got? Can you get it for me? So it's very, very important for you to prove your value, not to the bean counters and the business managers, but prove it to your patrons. That's important. Number 3 she talks about is influencing and negotiation. Effective change to make a demonstrable difference relies on the ability to influence and negotiate within the institution. And dare I say, if your teachers are not in the library, and if your teachers are not using the content that you have in the library, and if your teachers cannot come to your library and say, we're looking for some current content on a particular topic, and you don't have the ability to be able to say, I may not have it, but hang on a second, let me just put in a request for you and come back to me in less than 48 hours and I will give you a list of resources to match that for you. Okay? That's part of the system that we do. So providing value and influencing your decision makers is the ability to show that your library is not only a collection, but it also serves a very, very large percentage of your total patron base at your institution, which should include the teachers and lecturers as well. If your library is not creative, if you are a person that just thinks in terms of the printed material, well, it'll be fair to say that you will have very little interest in engaging with the students of today, because the students of today work in a digital world. The teachers of the day are increasingly being challenged to provide creative and innovative content. And the pace of change in the world, in the information age, is being incremented at an exponential way. And you need to be able to keep up with that. And you need to partner with a vendor who just doesn't say, here's a piece of library, give us your money, thank you very much, and on your bike, and you do it. You need to partner with your vendor or your supplier that will say, we know you have content, but why don't you use our research arm to help you build even more engaging and creative and innovative content? So that's very important to look at it. Supporting research in a digital world. Scholarly communications is evolving as it becomes more digital. So don't think in terms of just the printed matter. Neither should you be also thinking in terms of the video and digital area as well. How about all the other aspects that there are available in your library? As an example, let me just go and show you how you could federated search. Okay, so you want to be able to give the library patron the opportunity to go and search for something and bring up all the resources in your library that has access to that information. And if they click on Google, well, why not bring up the articles on Google that addresses that particular topic? And if a teacher has looked for that and say, that's what I want, why not give them the facility to click on that particular article's button and have it cataloged automatically? And that applies to all external digital resources. So it's very important that your library supports research, not them having to come to you as a library staff member, but being able to do it themselves. Why not? And why not also give them the facility to say that, how about I do this for you? I will give you a list of our resources to get you started. So you can say, I'm going to give you a list of resources on this particular topic. Okay, and then from that topic, go ahead and create a link to that search result. Okay, the link has been created, and then just email that. Just email that to the people to give them a starting point for their research. So here I go, paste. I can give this to a patron, which might be a student, it might be a teacher, it might even be a parent. So when I give them that, what it will do, it will give them your starting point and allow them to go in and continue to drill down and expand that. So it's very, very important that your library is a way of supporting digital resources. How about giving them a list of resources to start with, and then giving them a collaborative list to say, here's my findings. How about you go and build on that and have your own little research groups put together? If you want any more information, come back to me. So supporting research in this digital world, your library systems needs to be able to do that and do it on an ongoing method, and also be able to incorporate not just the books, not just the digital, but basically anything that's digital and anything that's accessible from a web address. So that will give you the biggest way of supporting research in a digital world. Digital literacy. The role of the library in preparing students and the academic staff who support them for a digital world is of continuing and increasing importance. And that is why Smart Suite has always said, we give you the way of supporting your physical collection, your digital collection, and give you an opportunity to add anything else digital on the fly. And you shouldn't have to pay an arm and a leg for every little click and every little feature and function, because that's going to address the issue of proving value. Okay, and if you have to pay through the nose every time you want to implement something, that's not the way to go. Marketing, what's that got to do with the library for the future? I would venture to say everything. The physical library is a place where people might come, but increasingly in a digital world where people are sitting at a tram stop, at a bus stop, or shopping, sitting at home, sitting in bed at night, whatever, people are very, very digitally engaged. So you need to be able to make sure that whatever system that you have is available on a browser. No apps, no plugins, no features, no constraints, just a browser. And you want to be able to give them a URL to start with. The URL might be to the starting page. I doubt anyone would want that. It needs to be a lot more sophisticated. It might be that here are 13 topics being studied by year 12 across the curriculum area. So I'm going to give you 13 buttons. And when you click on those 13 buttons, they will bring up resources tied to those 13 individual topics. But that's just a start. And you can then go ahead and create other additional buttons if you want to. and share it in a corporate environment with other groups in your own particular learning space. So it's very, very important that the library realizes that an OPAC, an inquiry screen, is the old way of doing things. The digital world is all about dynamic change and integrating with what's happening here and now. Digital information management is also about when you go in and you go and add content to the system, you want to be able to make sure that that particular content is relevant. Take YouTube as an example. That YouTube video might run for 20 minutes. And you surely don't want to have a 20-minute YouTube video on your library system when in actual fact you only want 3 minutes of it. And maybe you want 3 minutes in the middle and then a minute at the start and possibly another 2 minutes at the end. So when you start adding digital content to the system, you want to be able to make sure that you can manage that digital content. And when you go and take a YouTube item as an example, or any digital item, I use YouTube because that's one of the hardest areas to manage. Okay, we manage it very simply and very easily, and teachers who have used TV for education, they just love the idea that they can take any video, cut it any which way, add question and answers whichever way they want, and then create just one library catalog record for it and to be able to distribute it. So it's very, very important that you need to be able to manage your collection and manage the digital information in there. Okay, developing and managing space. Now, generally, when you talk about managing space, you're talking about physical space in the library. No software solution is ever going to do that. That's a given. But we need to take the thinking from managing the library space physically to getting the collection. And how do I now address the pedagogy that we need to address as library staff to the curriculum that's being taught? How can we use the collection to address that? How can we break it down into particular subject areas or particular topic areas and then take it off to its outcome of making it deliverable, and not only making it deliverable, but the people who are using it, make them accountable, not only for the use, but for the development of that particular space in the digital world. The last thing we're going to talk about, that this article talks about, is collaboration. It is so important that the system that you use needs to be able to be used as a collaboration tool. So important. As an example, I want to grab this video, that video, and I also want to grab this book, and let me just search, and I want to grab this book, that lesson, and this book, and now I want to set up a collaboration for that, for these group of 7 students because they're pretty advanced, or these group of 8 students who are struggling along in the class. Set up a collaboration that it can be managed, and it can be viewed, and it can be seen that not only are they collaborating, but they themselves are doing their own research and adding to those collaborations as a team. So your library system needs to go beyond just a resource of books, where you go in and you do circulation, cataloging, stock take, all the mundane reports systems that library systems do. It has to address a whole number of areas so that you can be relevant for the future, especially when it comes to this digital world. I'd strongly recommend you go to this website, and as you go in there, have a look at Laura's articles and have a look at some of the other articles that are in there. And it's all about relevancy. And we challenge you to talk to us, to at least have a look and see how we answer all those questions. Also, have a look at what you've currently got and how they answer those questions. And whatever you do, don't fall in the trap of, if you sign up with us, we'll give you a 10% discount, but you have to sign up for 3 years or 5 years. Don't fall for that, because in this digital world, things are changing so fast, and no matter what solution you go to, you need to be able to think that it could be irrelevant in the next 12 months, and I will kick it out and I will get something more relevant. Yes, it involves change, and yes, I have to relearn, but that's the digital world we're living in. You need to move in that space if you and your library is to remain relevant for the future. Thank you for the opportunity to have a chat with you about that. As I said, we're not saying buy our software or our solutions, but we're saying be challenged to think about what system you've got and have a look at what else is available. Thank you.